You will see what I'm doing when I'm not out in the hot shop and I don't feel like sweating. I do a little fiddling around with the EFI stuff. And I want to show you why I choose to use a Dominator instead of a Terminator X or an HP. That Terminator X Max, HP, they're great. I like them just fine. But why do I choose the Dominator? And I'm not even doing a race car right now. Yeah, there's some reasons. Let's see. Here's my little setup. Let's discuss. Okay. I've got my Terminator X to play with. I've got an HP to play with. I don't need to have a Dominator sitting up here just to fiddle around with different inputs and outputs that I want to play with. Yeah, somehow I'll get this hooked up. I should have had this ready to go before, but I didn't. Okay. All right. One of the interesting things I do, I thought I'll probably bring this camera in here so you might be able to actually see it. All right. Let's get this into a screen that. Okay. That right there is a little signal generator. And I've got this, I've got a whole harness hooked up. And I want to check out if my dashes are going to work. You just heard the fuel pump relay kick on. And I can run this tackle as far as I want to go. And I can check my red line, say there. And I've gone too far up on my hertz. But you can get a signal generator. It costs a good bit of money, or you can go dig around on your favorite whatever site like eBay or Amazon, and you can grab one of these little frequency generators. I don't know if you can see that in there. Let's zoom in on there so maybe you can see what I got. Well, I don't know if it'll pick it up, but that thing says, I mean, it's some kind of a little something from China or something, but it says on it, PWM frequency meter XY-PWM. It doesn't really say PWM. Let me get some magnifying glass on there. What in the world does it really say? It says, yeah, PWM frequency meter XY-PWM. And you can Google that exact, and you can grab one of these and play with it. All right. I want to check my oil pressure. Well, one of the neat things you can do is, if you've got an extra TPS laying around, you realize that's a 0 to 5 volt, just like an oil pressure. So I've got it hooked to a TPS. See, I'm at 100 PSI. They work backwards. See there? And both of there's my other oil pressure gauge. And it'll work on the data logging software the same way. But the interesting thing that I'm going to show tonight is I'm playing with the 61 GMC. This is the parking light housing. I went and got Amazon. These things are really low buck. SMD LEDs, surface mount, I guess is what, and I don't know what D is, but here's what I've done. And you can see I've soldered every one of them together for my negatives, soldered every one of them together for my positives. As you can see, negative, positive, or maybe I got it backwards. Whatever, but you see one side and the other. So that lays in there. I'll glue it all in later. And if you want it to kind of look a little more decent, we were throwing away an LCD TV, and I took the diffuser out of it. Right. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to bring this directly. I've got 2 outputs. Do not connect everything directly to an output unless you're really tiny amperage, like an LED. LEDs are very small amperage. I don't have enough reach with 1 alligator clip, so let's do 2. I don't have this 12.3 set up. Now this is probably going to come through to you flashing, like a late model car. It'll have a, since it's PWM, I'll show you what's on the screen in a minute. This is just those lights. And you look over here, turns to the work in there. Now, maybe you can't see it now. But this is one of the reasons I use a Dominator. Hopefully you can see this. Here's what I've got. We'll go back, show outputs. This is test 1 and test 2. Test 1, that's just the running lights. Configure. And right now I just have this. I'll change this when I do it for real in the truck. Like, it'll be for the light switch. And it's going to be, you know, I'll have an input as a light switch, blah, blah, blah. But this is now just the battery. But I've got PWM. I've got this at 20%. I did a fixed on the type, frequency 166. It just works. I don't know why I picked 166, but it just works. And it doesn't matter what here with TPS. It just doesn't matter. Just whatever. Voltage. It's just going to be 20 PWM across the board. You want it brighter? You can do it brighter. But I found that 20% was decent. And then we go back to outputs again. And then this is the fun one. This is test 2, which is going to be my blinker. That's just straight up ground. And it's the same bulbs illuminating either which way. Configure. And what you want, if you don't want it to be TPS, is above 60%. That's what I'm doing because I've got it hooked to a throttle body. You would configure that like when your right turn is on. Then it would go left for the left side, blah, blah, blah. And then you do your timer. This is what I found that I like the look of. 0.4 seconds, point on, 0.6 seconds off, and repeat. So anytime that I activate this, it just does this and repeats, does this and repeats, does this and repeats. And I'll show you one more time, just for the fun of it. And let's do another one. Let's add another one in. I did a taillight at the same time. Now this is so low amperage that I can run it directly off of the output. And it doesn't seem to care. In the actual vehicle, of course, I'm going to put it on. Yeah, see, you can. I'm looking through the camera right now. It's flashing, but in real life, it's not doing any flashing. It's just straight up running. Yeah, the camera set a certain thing where it's. Yeah, that's funny. In real life, it's just steady. It looks just like this one here comes on the camera perfect. That one does not, but they both look just like this one. See, this is steady. This is crazy how the camera doesn't pick it up. That's PWM for you. PWM is a strange animal on a camera. Of course, if you I didn't set the 12.3 up one bit, but let's take this off of here so it doesn't blind everybody anymore. But you can see my turn signal's working. And that's just going right across the CAN bus. So there you go. There's all my little Holley tricks I pull. And like map sensor, got a little resistor in it. I like to test everything out while it's on the bench. Doing all this stuff out in the hot shop, kind of crappy. I like this. Yeah, I know you. It sure looks like I'm spoiled by Holley, but I'll tell you something. Many, many years ago, I did a whole lot of swap stuff, and I used GM stock ECUs. That's just how it was. But when I was involved with the automotive media, with the magazines, back when print was a real thing, back when I was doing that, Holley was really good to us. And first started off with a HP ECU. That was for dyno testing. I got a little spoiled with that. It's got a lot easier to do than the factory GM ECU tuning. And it did some Dominator stuff. Boy, that was really nice. And that's why I'm stuck with Dominators on my hot rods. I really like them on the hot rods. Most of you guys play Dominators are all dedicated race cars, big deal, all that stuff. And that's great. But there's a lot more street people can use these. I do a whole wiring on a car when I do one because I'm not dealing with something late model. It's going to need rewire from stem to stern. You know, that 61 GMC, if you've looked at my videos, it's 61 GMC. You've seen the 57 Chevys going together. You haven't seen the body yet, but you've seen the chassis. Well, you know both those cars are going to need full wiring stem to stern. I can get American Auto wire. That works great. But think about this. You run all those outputs, like you just saw, turn signals. Think about anything else you could do, power windows, all those things. It's starting to make more sense for me to run a Dominator. And then I like having a brake pressure sensor. I like all that extra data. You know, I didn't think a brake pressure sensor was a big deal until I had a brake problem once. Put a brake pressure sensor on the back and brake pressure sensor on the front. The brakes felt funny. I just looked down at my data. Oh, I don't have any rear brake pressure to speak of. I had a little hydraulic problem. That's how quick I found it. I won't do anything without brake pressure sensors now. You can call me spoiled, because I am. I've spoiled myself over the years with this stuff. And would I use another brand ECU? Probably would, but you know what? I got stuck in my ways. I got used to Holley. Got stuck in my ways. I'll use a GM ECU still every now and then. Not very often. Probably won't be for anything that I own. I think I'll just stick with this. I've got a couple of these left over, so I know 2 cars that are getting them. Who knows what's coming up next? Let's see. I think that's about all that needs to be said about the extra little things you may never thought of. Now, here's a little something you might think of. It's expensive to do it. If you've got a Terminator X and you want to play this game with something like a turn signal or something else you think of that is normally not EFI controlled, CAN expansion module. That gives you 8 more inputs, 8 more outputs. And you could I've thought about it. It's like, well, you could conceivably put one in the front of the car and one in the back, and all you'd have to run is a CAN connector. You might, I mean, if you have something with some draw, some headlights or something, you might want to put some power up there, but it's a lot less wiring if you wanted to play that game. Just spend money though. Man, those CAN expansion setups are a lot of money. You just, by the time you get a couple of those, you could have bought a Dominator. So that's why Dominator's cheaper for me in my builds, because I'm not buying American Auto wire, and I'm not buying extra expansion modules, and I'm not buying all these extra things. I just get it once, get all the harnesses, and I'm doing everything flying lead anyway. I'm no Devin Vanderhoof, but I build all my own harnesses out of flying leads. What else is there to talk about in here? I guess that's it. I did a custom screen on there. Some people like it. That's that custom screen. if I knew how to do Photoshop, I could do a whole lot more. I just grab images off whatever and size them accordingly. See, there's one of the regular screens that you get. There was something I did for somebody who was a Star Trek fan. They got them little Star Trek dash going on. Other ones. I got another one. There you go. Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator vision. But there you go. There's my little bench and the things I do when it's too hot outside. Yeah, you spy an Arduino there. You know, some of the funny things are that dash doesn't even look like that. The 12.3 doesn't. It has. You're seeing the like red circles. It doesn't even have those red circles in real life. Yeah, you can see them come on and off. On and off, on and off. So yeah, I move the camera a little bit and they flip. Filming some electronic devices gets a little strange sometimes. It just flips. Well, there's some of the little tricks I do. You know, gotta do like a coolant temp sensor sitting in it. You saw that PWM module, and I do appreciate the encouragement when you guys hit that like and that subscribes thing. Maybe someday I'll make something of this, but maybe not. It don't matter. But John, if you made it this long to the end of this video, hi. And I don't have a workbench near as good as you, Mr. Electronics. We'll see you.